Hey, start us off.
Kevin, have you and Scott been in communication about your future here? Because there's been a lot of speculation, obviously.
Well, we really don't get together until later in the week. He's always around. Early in the week, it wouldn't be uncommon for us not to get together. So usually later in the week we get together. He's around practice, and when the injury situation, who's going to play in a game, kind of clears up, that's when we have a discussion. So no, we haven't really talked. But like I said, that's not uncommon.
To the left here, Sam.
Kevin, you said a lot that you guys preach to your team to focus on what's said in this building. How well have they done that in your mind over the last few weeks?
Well, I think it continues. I think the results don't show that. I think the effort does. From a lot of different standpoints. I think our guys continue to give great effort. Hadn't always been the best. I mean, all the way to the end of the game. Didn't really execute in certain stretches the way we wanted to, but I think the effort can't be questioned. And then, on the other side of the coin, we had official visits here last weekend. We got them again this weekend. So everybody in our organization is still going, and recruiting was, even though the results weren't what we wanted. Saturday in a game, I thought that the guys who were here on official visits and unofficial visits, there was great communication with them and our coaches, and we've got some more this weekend. So, from our standpoint, in regards to your question about what the attitude, what the feeling, and what the communication is, it's in that building is probably different than it is outside.
Third row to the right, Christy, and then down front, Brent.
With the different skill sets of Starkel and Mond, how much does it change things for the rest of the offense when one is out there as opposed to the other one?
It's a little bit different, without going into it in depth and giving everything away. It's obvious that one guy is probably a little bit more athletic, particularly since the other guys all taped up and not to say Nick's not athletic, but as he continues to get better health-wise, he can move around pretty well, but the last couple of weeks he hasn't. So you're building things a little bit different for Nick than Kellen, who's obviously a guy that can run and very mobile. So, yeah, there's a little bit of difference in what the build is, for game plans. But, from the big scheme of things, from a menu standpoint, those plays don't change very much. They change with the options that are available for them out of the run game, whether that's one guy being more of an RPO guy, and then the other guy being more of a read run guy, without going in depth.
Down front, Brent.
Along those lines, do you allow yourself to even think of what might have been or what the offense might have looked like if Nick hadn't have broken his ankle at UCLA?
No, I mean, you don't. I don't really have time for that. It's never really, just be honest with you, Brent, when he got up, when they carried him, he walked 2 steps and almost fell down, and carried him like 3 more steps on the sideline there. I knew something bad had happened. I didn't know how bad until, 6 minutes later. And then, in this job, you don't have time for that, to think about what if or what could have or what this would, what you have and what you do is not just every 39 seconds make a decision, but you make those decisions based on what you think's best to happen now. You get a chance to reflect on that maybe later on, as we talked about, on the off season. But right now, no, I haven't really thought about that. What we've tried to do is it takes about all your focus and energy to make sure that you're giving your team and players the best chance possible to be successful. And there's really not any time to think back on what could have been.
Go to the very back, Daryl, and down front, Ben.
Coach, I have a couple of questions. First off, can you just talk about the New Mexico staff and a lot of those guys that have ties to either College Station or Texas A&M, and some of them both?
Some of them both, and some of them that we've worked with before. And obviously Bob Davie is a guy who has done a great job. A lot of people know him here still in town, and was here, did a great job here. Jordan Peterson, who played here, was a GA here, a guy that I've been in contact with, and has come back and worked some camps here with us. Just a quality young guy. Bob DeBess, who was here as a wide receiver coach. We actually, he, I, and Noel Mazzoni were on the same staff at Minnesota for Jim Wacker. And Bob was the coordinator, Noel was the quarterback coach, and I was the wide receiver coach way back when. I've got relationships with those guys, and obviously they're coming back here. I think they've got, 17 or 19 players from the state. So they'll be excited to come in here and play well. And, they should be. But quality people, and guys that know what they're doing. They've been around football a long time. You watch what they do on defense. They're extremely aggressive in what they do with loading the box and bringing people all different places and doing some things. And then offensively, really multiple in an option-type setting with a lot of motion, a lot of different option things. We've got to get guys that have good eye discipline. They want to run it. They're creative in how they run it, and getting the quarterback involved and different types of really read option schemes. And they've been able to do it for the last couple of years and be one of the top teams in the country running the ball. So, like I said, you got a well-coached football team with guys that know what they're doing that are probably going to be pretty excited to be back here at Kyle Field.
Second row to the right, Ben.
Kevin, one of the players came in and essentially said that there was kind of a breakdown in weekly discipline in regards to the routine throughout the week. Do you get a sense of that after the Alabama loss, things just kind of started to deteriorate in terms of their weekly discipline and what they did day to day?
No, I don't understand what you're saying. Weekly discipline. We changed the schedule, so I don't know if that is what you're talking about.
I guess Jared Johnson came in here and essentially said that I guess guys stopped doing certain things here and there that was required of them, and it kind of snowballed into and had a various effect on the program. Did you get a sense of that that guys just stopped doing what they needed to do after that Alabama loss? Yeah,
I'd be careful with assuming anything like that. I know that there was a change in the schedule based on the bye week, and which you guys knew from here. So with Tuesday being the day off than anything else, the other part of it, I don't see that as being an issue. I mean, if you change the schedule, which was something that we did and calculated to do it, and flipping days and coming back to give guys the weekend off, and making Tuesday the day off instead of Sunday, I would see that as a change, maybe in routine. So I'd be real careful talking about, a change in discipline or guys not doing what they're supposed to do, because I didn't see that as an issue.
The left seat.
I did see, but we did change the schedule, and that might have changed some things for people from a routine standpoint.
Robert Cessna to the left.
Kevin, since your job is a hot topic outside the building, what do you feel you have to do to return next year?
Cece, I've had this question since we first sat down upstairs before the season, right? So, what I do is focus on what we have to do this week to win games, and the big picture will take care of itself. I have not looked at well, here's this or here's a number, here's what we can do is the best we can do, and from that standpoint, I think it keeps you focused on what's going on right now. And that's the best thing that we can do as coaches, and that's the best thing we can do as a program, is focus week to week. And whatever happens on Saturday, good or bad, you leave that alone and go the next week. And so for me, that's how I've approached it. That's how I'm going to continue to approach it, and that's not going to change.
Down front, Travis.
When you have a team that's dropped a couple games, is it, especially with a young team, is it, do you see, since sometimes it's hard for them to focus in on some of the minutia, some film study and stuff like that, and what do you do to kind of draw them back in?
I think it's better. I think it's funny, not funny, but when people outside, or if you're not playing, and particularly with young players, they don't. I mean, this is not a newsflash, but they don't want to screw up, right? And they don't like it, and so sometimes when things in situations where win or loss, when you come back in on Monday, they want to fix it because they're out there playing and they want to do the right thing and want to be correct and want to be good. So, I look at it completely different. The energy level, the where guys were yesterday was probably different than, as you said, outside of it, because nobody's happy, but because of that, I think the attitude and how they want to come to work and how they do things becomes a different situation than maybe people think, and particularly with young guys, because every snap for those guys like Derek Tucker and Renfro and all those guys is a learning experience. And I think because of that, their attitude is in a different place than maybe people think.
That's left, Alex, and then Sam.
Coach, kind of going on a different tangent here, with this being Dave South's last home game to call at Kyle Field, what do you think that means for him and just your interactions with him this season in particular and your time with him over the years?
Well, it was it's an emotional time. We had a radio show last night, and he's in the back. I'm trying not to say too much right now because even though we look like we're hard people, when you're around somebody and particularly doing a radio show, over the last 6 years, and then when I was here a couple years ago, but over the last 6 years, there's great times and there's not so great times. But to be able to talk and communicate and be around a legend like Dave South and a voice with that's, I call him the voice, but a guy who's truly excited about Texas A&M and sports across the board, a guy whose voice is recognized nationwide and as a part of Texas A&M and to be able to sit there and over the course of time, you become friends with people who have been in a foxhole with you and have to answer questions and do tough stuff. And I truly appreciate his friendship, and I know that it's going to be an emotional time for him.
Stay to the left, Sam, and then Suzanne.
Kevin, following up a little bit on Ben's point, I think Jared's point was that when things have broken down from when you guys have lost, that some guys haven't taken care of little things, not necessarily just on the field, but off the field. So when you're managing a team, 105
right.
guys, when you have maybe a lot of young guys, how much do those things kind of pop up over the course of the season, and in turn, as if they have since Alabama, when you guys have lost, have those little things in your mind had an effect on the result in the field?
No, I would say this. I think that they're magnified when you lose. I think with young players, in particular, when you're going through a process, that guys don't always do the right thing, and so the discipline that comes from that may not be recognized as much by other players when you're winning. When you're consistent in your discipline, and when you got, like you said, 105 guys, 85 guys on scholarship, you want everybody to do everything right. Some of those guys, some guys didn't, and some guys have mysteriously not played too. I'll just put it that way, that you guys have asked about. So, there's not a question about discipline on this football team. There's not a question about what's going on. And so I would say that, in those times, everybody's looking for an answer or what's going on, and things get magnified when you lose. And then also, I think, to Jarrett's point, nobody wants to win more than him. And this guy's been around here a long time. And so, he is a guy that has given great effort this year and wants everything to go right. And you would say, I would say that Jarrett's a lot different person as a senior than he was when he first got here, and learning how things go. And, in a way, for a senior who's a leader and a guy who has been added to the guys that I meet with, weekly or bi-weekly in our captains because of how he's done things. He wants everything to be right, and you got to respect that, because that's his role as a older player to lead by example, but also encourage and make sure that things are going right.
Suzanne, and then Gabe, you'll wrap us up.
Kevin, I was talking to another coach last week, and he was making the comment that he worries about his younger players getting on social media and absorbing negative comments, positive comments, that maybe that they're getting the wrong idea of what's going on. Do you have any kind of ask your team to maybe stay off Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter just to keep the message within the building, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask, but I think that's asking a lot. I think we live in a time right now where I don't think that's possible. We have certain players that have taken themselves off of social media. I think Myles Garrett comes to mind. But let's face it. It's in the room, and we don't allow phones in our meeting rooms. We don't allow phones in there. But you walk through the locker room and everybody's on their phone, and so that message is whatever that is. I can't control it, but I think what's important is that the message that's in that meeting room or in our coaches' meeting rooms become the message. And we talk about belief and trust, and in the people who are in that room, whether that's another player, our trainer, a doctor, coach, Mikado Henson, whoever that is. And, because ultimately there's going to be speculation. There's going to be things that are going to be said. And like, as I've said, there's a lot of things that happen on social media that you can read and you can believe it, but you've never been that great and you've never been that bad based on what's on there. So as long as you can separate those things, because nobody's going to talk about you if you're average. And what you have to do is be able to go through and trust in the people in that room, not just coaches, like I said, a lot of people and other players. And then the evaluation process and the growth process becomes one where you've got to be open to what's being said in that room. And as long as that happens and what's being said in that room is not public knowledge, I think it becomes frustrating to some people in here, but I think it helps our guys be able to grow. And the things that are said in there for correction, things that are said about what you have to do, if the mistakes you've made, things that are critical errors, as long as that is not public, I think people start to trust you. And I think that's the only way, the best way to deal with young guys and to earn their trust and keep their trust by being truthful with them about what's going on and the great things they've done, some of the bad things that have happened, but then also make sure that that information stays within that team, and then you can keep that trust.
To the right, Gabe, wrap us up.
Kevin, some of those negative comments on social media and talk radio have come from your own administration. I got to believe that's got to be incredibly frustrating. How do you balance that with also the excitement of having such a young group? And how badly, when you look at it, do you want to be the coach here?
Well, you know, it's I told you this, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago. You know, this is these guys are they're fun to be around. You know, it's not and they love to play football. You know, you watch some of that video and how guys have done things. They love it, and you know, they're guys that you know that give great effort and get frustrated just like everybody else. So, you know, for me, you know, they're great to be around. The social media part, you know, whatever people say about it, I've done this long enough. You know, I've been on all kinds of ends of it as an assistant coach, as a head coach. You know, that's all part of it. You know, you get that, and so for me, it gets back to what I said earlier. You know, you get as long as you deal with and it was Joe Tiller who said it. He said, you know, that stuff right there, you've never been that good and you've never been that bad. So as long as you go about it and do your job the way that you feel like needs to be done, and you're around people that care and people that give great effort and guys that are trying, including, I mean, everybody, then you feel good about going to work. And then, you know, after that, that's whatever happens, happens. But that doesn't change how you do things. It's never changed anything I've done. From the first time I was a graduate assistant, and I don't know how long that ago was, but you know, you understand what this is about from day one, and that's, you know what you signed up for.
All right, Coach, thank you.
Thanks.